Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Dial the Gate. This is episode 67, the WonderCon 2021 AMA, which means Ask Me Anything. And I did not really know that until like all of 6 months ago. Before we get started, if you like Stargate and you want to see more content like this on YouTube, it would make a great difference if you click the like button. It really does make a difference with YouTube's algorithm and will definitely help the show grow its audience. Please also consider sharing this video with a Stargate friend. And if you want to get notified about future episodes, click the subscribe icon. Giving the bell icon a click will notify you the moment a new video drops, and you'll get my notifications of any last-minute guest changes. This is key if you plan on watching live. And clips from this live stream will be released over the course of the next several days on the GateWorld.net YouTube channel. So normally with an episode, I have a guest from Stargate's production era. With this episode, I am bringing in my co-producer, Linda Furey, and also someone that I have not actually had on the show yet. It is she is a friend of mine going back. Jenny, how long now?
2006.
Is that right? 2000.
Yes,
Yeah, that sounds about right. So, Linda,
15.
welcome on the show on screen for the first time.
Great to be here. It's bizarre being on screen with you, but I will enjoy it. I'm gonna have fun.
Well, I thank you for taking the leap into the next dimension. And Jenny, yes, you and I have known each other for a very long time now. I've watched her kid go from like 3.5 feet tall to becoming a man. There's a lot of history there, and it was just a matter of time before we got you on the show. So you were in the special thanks at the very beginning, because if it wasn't for you, the show would not exist. You know, you are definitely one of the people who made Dial the Gate possible, and it's a delight to finally have you.
Well, thank you very much. I love you, and it's so much fun to be here with you. Pretty much everything that is Stargate for me is wrapped up with David. So
this is true.
One goes with the other very easily.
So what is an AMA? How do these kind of things work? And what's going to be the plan going forward for this episode?
So in this case, I'm going to be taking over a little bit, because I think that a lot of your fans and followers don't really know a lot about each of you, especially David. I'm not sure that you share all the time about your own background and how you got here. I know you've done a couple of podcasts with Darren over at GateWorld, but in this case, I'm going to ask a couple of questions of both Linda and David. And then anybody who's watching who's live, you can ask us anything, any question at all. Everything is open. You can ask about the original broadcast. I was part of the production from 2004 on. You can ask about our, what do we want to call it, David? The reactivation in 2015.
Right, exactly.
That David and I
turn the gate back on.
Exactly. You can ask Linda about her background, which hopefully when I ask some of these questions, you all are going to go, what? We didn't know that. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll ask a couple of leading questions, and then we'll be checking about in the chat live what people want to know about.
Perfect. Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
All right.
All right.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start with David, and Linda, obviously jump in anytime you hear anything and you want to ask him a question as well. David, okay. I do want you to start a little bit on who you were as a youngin' and getting into Stargate as a fan, because I'm not sure everybody knows exactly how you came to be, not just doing Dial the Gate, working at GateWorld, but why? Because you were a fan.
I've never really gone too in depth into it before, at least definitely on this show. I was always a sci-fi nerd as far back as I can remember. My dad exposed me to Star Trek at like 3 years old. And so Star Trek to this day has always kind of been like my sci-fi bread and butter.
Yeah.
Stargate, I discovered accidentally when season 1 started airing in syndication back in 1990, I guess the fall of 90, was it the fall of 97 or the fall? No, it was the fall of 98 was when the show started entering into syndication. Yeah. And I was a big fan of Saturday night syndicated sci-fi programming on my local ABC affiliate, WSIL, in Southern Illinois. And they always had The Outer Limits and Poltergeist: The Legacy, both of which were shot at Bridge Studios. It was that MGM production. And those would appear in syndication on Saturday nights. And one of them didn't come on that night. And instead, there was this ring and snake-headed people coming through. And I'm like, I vaguely recognize this ring. I think I know. My only connection with Stargate at that point was it was the VHS tape sitting next to The Fifth Element at the Walmart for months and months.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And I was a huge Fifth Element fan.
I hadn't seen the movie.
I hadn't seen the movie.
Okay, I didn't know that.
The next night, CBS, or I think it was CBS, aired Stargate as the movie of the week.
No way.
And so then I saw it.
It was meant to happen.
It was meant to happen. Yeah. And they aired Children of the Gods. It was a 3-hour lineup that night. So I didn't realize what I was watching was a pilot. So when the first hour wrapped and it kept going, I was like, and I watched the whole thing, which I normally just turn things off if I'm not interested. So there was definitely an interest there. So I taped it with my VCR, watched the second half the next day because I was exhausted. I went to bed.
Yeah.
And then that night, the movie came on. And from that point forward, I was hooked. So
I love that.
I bought Showtime. I immediately got season 2, which started airing just like a few weeks later, first run. And so I watched season 2 and season 1 concurrently.
I love it.
So that was my story.
That's great. And that's what every fan needs to know about both of you guys. So Linda, how did you stumble on Stargate? How did you find it? Because I know people don't know this story.
Yeah, I've always been a nerd girl. So Starlog magazine was something I was picking up at the mall.
Oh, nice.
Every single month. I'd go to the newsstand. I couldn't afford them all. I had my little after school library job.
Yeah.
So I had a little pocket money, and I'd stand there at the newsstand and look through them all and decide which ones I was buying that month. And it was all, film magazines and television.
Right.
And Starlog was usually top of my little stack that I was going home with. And I'm flipping through, and I turn to this incredible spread, and it was the Anubis costume that caught my eye. And I was like, oh, ooh, Egyptian, what's this? And I stood there and read the whole article at the newsstand with the guy who knew me at the counter because he saw me every week, laughing at me. And he's like, you're hooked on something, girl. And I'm like, uh-huh. I went to the theater as soon as I possibly could and saw it. But it was the costumes that caught my eye first. And then, of course, once I was in the theater and in the seat, I was like, practically reaching out the door, buying a ticket for the next show.
Absolutely. And I think that what's so interesting, so David, your dad introduced you to Star Trek, mine did too, introduced me to Star Trek. Of course, you all are babies because I was watching it in '69, but sure.
First round syndication for you for Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. But my dad took me to see, or we went together to go see Stargate. And again, you guys are babies. So when it came out, I was 25. So, I just think that it doesn't matter what your experience is. We've all had that moment. Now, I saw the movie, forgot about it, and then stumbled on Stargate on Showtime on, I think, the 3rd season. So it was, or 4th season, right before it went over to Sci-Fi. So I didn't even know that it was on Showtime. I didn't even know it was there. And of course, it is that moment of, this is it. Right. I've made this connection. And we're in this little apartment in Brentwood with, our Showtime that basically is coming through a TV this big. But it didn't matter. I was hooked. I was done.
When you connect with a piece of art,
exactly,
it's holy. There's something holy
in sci-fi, especially, and of course, what you've talked about and I've talked about for years, and Linda, you've written about, is that there is that magic too of the screenwriters and what they did with Stargate. But to that point, I want to ask you, David, then, so as you got older and you graduated and you wanted to move on and you started working with GateWorld, which I know people know.
Oh, I didn't even, yes. So
let
me back up a little bit. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
I want you to talk a little bit about that too.
GateWorld was Starguide first when it came online in 1999. So Darren has talked about this. Jolinar's Memories had aired. Apophis is the big reveal at the end, and he he realized that the show was it was going to continue to reference itself into the future of the series, reference back on itself, and reward the fans in the process. So it was going to be a vehicle that would I'm not describing this well at all, that was going to make the continuing story relevant to viewers who had been watching from the beginning. And so he decided to make Stargate. And I discovered it, I mean, it was easily 2000, 2001 at this point. So I was one of his earlier
you
adopters.
were very early. Yeah.
By the airing of season 7, I had joined the website to work on the Stargate Omnipedia, which is a project that he had brewing on the side for a while. He wanted to do that, but didn't really have a chance to. And so I came in and started fleshing out the encyclopedia section of the site, and that was really my first task. It wasn't long before I was doing interviews with the casting crew.
But I think that's so important as your first entree, because that's how a lot of us get hooked on those details.
Mm-hmm.
And the details were fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
And not just on GateWorld, I mean, within the series. And that's one of the reasons why I think so many of us keep going back, and you can rewatch these stories because you find something new. I mean, honestly, I haven't watched it as much as you have by far in terms of rewatches. But every time I just started again, Atlantis, and every time I find something like, oh my God, I forgot about that episode. I don't know how I forgot, but I forgot about that episode.
There's so many little linkages.
Exactly. And I think that the writers and everything that Brad did and Jonathan Glasner early on in building the world, right? Correct. And that's what GateWorld did, is it gave all of us fans online some place to go to deeper dive into that world building. And it's one thing that I know Darren hasn't talked about, and I keep trying to bring this up because it's important. Okay, seriously, Linda, your cat is adorable. Is that
she wants to be on screen?
Well, let's have a look at her, real quick.
Amelia.
Hello, cat.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
This is Amelia.
Hello, Amelia.
She's named after Amelia Earhart because she likes to get up on things and launch herself. She has pretty blue eyes and is very photogenic. But if she's not getting her own way, she bites.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'll skip the biting part.
Yeah, do.
Look at that face.
Well, and to talk a little bit about the GateWorld fandom and what they were doing.
Yeah.
Linda, I think a lot of what you were doing and growing up as a fan and wanting to write ties into that, right? There's this depth to GateWorld. There's this depth to the series. And I think that's what intrigues all the fans. It's why there's such rich fan fiction, so many good blogs, so many good fandoms. And also, GateWorld at that time was part of what was becoming a burgeoning online fandom. So X-Files, Buffy, everything that was at that time just globbed on to the internet, the interwebs. And so both of you, I want both of you to talk a little bit about then how that became a bit of a warp and a weave in your life and your career, because GateWorld became a launch pad, David, for you to a large degree of what you want to do in your career, what you are doing. And Linda, a lot of what you have done in writing is tied to what you saw happening there online. So both of you could talk a little bit about that. I think there are fans who probably are going through that themselves.
Linda, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay. My writing, I really started out like so many of us in fandom writing fan fiction.
Right.
I'd always loved writing at school. Any writing assignment, I was like, yeah, I'm getting really creative with this. So I already had that bug. But
I love that. When
I started going to conventions and participating in fandom, there were all these opportunities to write stuff. There were the fanzines, which were, print at that point in the 80s. Right. So it was, you had to write your cover letter, you had to send it away. Right. It was a really professional process at that point in time.
And Titan Magazine did a lot for that. Yeah. I know your friend, is it Debbie, or Debbie did a lot of the magazine covers, right? Debbie Bell? David, is that right?
Oh yes, Debbie.
Yeah.
I don't know what professional work she has done for Stargate besides working with you and I. But yeah, she did fan made covers for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And
yes.
I think
those are all hers.
Actually, Titan picked up a couple of those at the very end on their site when they were doing, displays of fan fiction and fan art.
Oh, I did not know that. That's
great.
great.
I should find that for her. It's buried somewhere in my ridiculous drives that you have. But
Lovely.
I think, Linda, a lot of what I love about both of you is that it's a fan who professionally got to do and be part of what you love. So that passion combined with what you love to do. And David, a little bit, I know people with your interview with Darren, because I saw that you talked a little bit about that, but what I wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive is when you were transitioning from GateWorld to other work, how you were looking at Stargate as your springboard, your leverage. It wasn't just a passion. It was, hey, I really want to involve myself professionally.
Right.
And I don't know that everybody knows that about you and how you were approaching that.
Well, that was something that I just fell into. I mean, I was just going to, be working part-time with GateWorld, until whenever,
right.
Heat Death of Universe. But I went to a Stargate convention in, I guess, 2006. And I met Katie Postma, who was working with Cheyenne Mountain Entertainment at the time.
Oh, that's right.
Right. And she was moving on from community management at Stargate Worlds, which was in development, and asked me if I wanted to take her place. So I went out to Arizona, where I am now, and interviewed in January 2007 and got the job. And so that is where I started having not just a fandom Stargate career, but a professional Stargate career as well. And then working with Stargate Magazine.
You and I met online in 2006.
Yes.
Via Darren and Chad. And Darren was the one I had reached out to in end of 2005 or 2004, I can't remember. And I remember I got an early email that you and I had in 2006. And you were talking about that job and going to that job.
Right.
And I think one of the things that both of you have shown in your career is this open-mindedness to, okay, I'm going to go try that. Yeah. So I want you both to talk a little bit about the Stargate family is very open to that, number one, which is unusual in a lot of productions. And most productions have what are called linear or adjacent industries and services to them. So in this case, the Cheyenne Mountain Gaming, right? And as we've grown through the years online, you have multiple thousands of adjacent services and industries to that main production. And what both of you have done that I think is really important has been really, really open to looking around of, well, where is Stargate? Where is sci-fi? What can I do? How can I get involved?
Right.
And David, a lot of that was what you did at Cheyenne Mountain. So can you talk a little bit about what you do? RIP Stargate Worlds. That talk a little bit about how that really expanded and was a domino effect into a lot of what you did later, not with just Stargate, but with production with me, and how you learned a lot there.
Yeah, it was an opportunity to open some doors. One project led in so many ways into the next just because of the physical spaces that I was put in and the people that were adjacent in those spaces. So, Jenny, you need to come back a little center. You're kind of there. We go.
Sorry.
Perfect. No, it's all good. It's been driving me nuts.
My chair rolls. Sorry.
That's great.
Welcome to California and our earthquake-prone houses. So.
Oh gosh, but yeah, no, I get just. One opportunity would give rise to another because of the people that you would surround yourself with.
Right.
And when you're surrounding yourself with talented people, you'll be darned if you don't take advantage of them because, that's just what the opportunity is there. So, and that's really what happened with you and me. I knew who you were, but we didn't meet until a party that I threw for GateWorld. In 07. And then that transformed into working on the Stargate Continuum augmented reality content, or literally alternate reality content in this case.
Right.
And it just one thing led to another. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that sticking your neck out there and doing, trying to go above and beyond in a particular job or position
and ask questions. And
yes.
David, I want to say for both of you, but for so many people that I've met through Stargate that are fans. So Kelly Varner, Darren, Beth, all the
Wallach,
people that I've worked with, every single one of you asked me a question. So I was working at Fox and MGM at the time. And my background, for those that don't know, is all TV production and then digital TV production. So
it's important to mention that Fox was distributing the DVDs for MGM at this point. That's the Fox connection here.
I worked with MGM on original production during that time, and then I was a liaison, and I worked with Fox Home Entertainment for the post-broadcast. And I did all the digital marketing and digital content. And A, I loved Stargate, and I'm a sci-fi geek, and B, during that period of time, digital was not just in its adolescence, it was in its toddler stage. And a lot of the studios just basically could have cared less about it and didn't get that it was important. And so to a certain degree, that opened up a lot of frontiers for me, because I got to play in the digital sandbox, as David has heard me say ad nauseum, that I would just throw an idea out and people would go, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't care. Can you do it for cheap? Sure. So a lot of what I did, David and I have done more more projects for, what was Kelly's joke? $1.99.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you want peanuts for that? Okay, fine, we'll do it for peanuts.
Yeah, $1 and a cup of coffee.
Right.
And I think what that in turn did is that it made me go out and say to Darren, hey, I love what you're doing. I'm also a fan. Who have you got? What can we do together?
Well, your superpower is communication.
Well, thank you very much.
It's how it works.
Okay, now I'm red. So, but the reason I brought that up was because both of you I met because you asked me questions.
That's right.
So, David, I'm not sure that Darren even did anything other than, so David's working on this. That was it. And then
that was the introduction, and then we were off.
I got an email that you're asking me a bunch of questions. And Linda, you reached out and asked me a question. So all of these people that we've met are because we're curious, and to David's point, when you're meeting somebody, if you follow your passionate curiosity, you're gonna get to do your passion. And to that point, Linda, I want you to talk a little bit about what you've been doing with writing and how that's expanded from being a sci-fi fan and you're a teacher and being able to explore that area that you like.
Yeah. Well, I got into fandom. I was in high school still. I don't remember which year. It might have been my second year of high school that I started going to cons. And nobody I knew was doing that. I was hooked immediately. The fanzine sucked me in. I joined clubs. I wrote for their newsletters. So with me, it was all about expressing fandom, writing fan fiction. That later in college segued into more serious stuff, to going to conventions and really helping organize. And when the whole Stargate thing happened, I told you how I fell in love.
Right.
But I connected with other fans online and just started writing my stuff. I found GateWorld when I'd spot a little bit of news that Darren didn't know yet or hadn't posted yet. I'd use that little, send us news button up the top and send it to him. I didn't write anything big for GateWorld.
Doesn't matter.
But because I was
involved.
Yeah, I was tapping into that world. I started making other connections, and I found myself several mentors. One of them, I was working at, I'm a librarian now and a school librarian, but I was working in a public library at the time, and it was the library that John Updike went and did all of his research for his books at. So I was seeing John Updike come in, and I was requesting his interlibrary loan books from other libraries for him. He liked me. He came to me with his stack of paper every week.
just love this. I think that, I'm sorry, but I get a little fangirly when you talk about this story because it's just, what? You got to meet Updike.
So that started an ongoing conversation with the man about doing research for your writing.
Right.
It taught me a lot about writing technique, and it was just a sentence here and there. Oh, hi, Mr. Updike. These are your books today. Wow, you got 20 different subjects. What are you writing, sir? You know,
Wow.
And he'd be like, oh, it's all for the same thing, but I have a bunch of questions I need to answer because my characters need to know these things.
Well, and those titans of classic 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s literature are very much about research.
Yeah.
And actually, I want to bring this up for both of you. One of the things that always really, really, really appealed to me was that both of you did your research. So if David came to me with a proposal or an idea, I knew he had put the research into it.
Yeah.
When he came up with something really creative, I know he had done the background. Linda, when you and I were talking 4 or 3 years ago about doing an activation, you had already done the research about why this was a good idea and it would reach an audience I needed. That is so key. It's so important to anything that we're doing online right now because there's a lot of white noise out there. I mean, the beauty of how we started is there were a lot out there. You know, it was online fandoms were burgeoning. Well, okay, again, both of you are babies, but when I was doing it, there was nobody there. And even during its adolescence, when you both became very active online, there was still not a lot of white noise online about we could do a big splash like the Continuum alternate reality game. But now you've got to do the research to prove why is this going to reach an audience? How is this going to do it? So I can't emphasize enough in whatever you're doing, whatever fan fiction you're doing, whatever proposal you want to write, do the research, show the data. But do the analysis of it. Don't just throw a number out there because that's too easy. And David, that's something both of you, Linda and David, do really, really well. I can count on it every time. So I can't emphasize the importance of research. I sound like such a teacher. Sorry.
No.
I just realized I'm sounding way too much like my husband right now. So do your research.
I always want my kids that I work with to know that this is why I'm so into do the research. It's because that takes you places.
It does.
You know the answers to all the questions before you go and talk to people. Then you're intelligent.
Well, and David, you do this so well. You ask questions that someone else hasn't asked them. I mean, come on. We've been on this event circuit for how long?
I mean, at a certain point, you are going to ask questions that other people have asked, you know. But I'll be darned if I'm not going to ask it try to ask something in a unique way.
Exactly. So, and you look for that little detail. Right. Devil's in the details, right?
That's where he is.
And, okay, so many jokes. So little time. All right, so here's the next part I want you both to talk about. So as you've gone through this, you're finding your passion, it's clicking into your career, right? You're beginning to be able to do more in this area. What is it that keeps you going, that keeps the light on for you? Because it can be a drag sometimes, right? There are COVID notwithstanding, it can be really hard. So if I want both of you to talk a little bit about the fact that you both have a passion that keeps you going, and where do you look for that creative light within? How do you do your creative process when you don't feel like it? Sorry, that wasn't on my list of questions.
I'll go first. I mean, Stargate's been off the air since 2011. You know, but I mean, being on these Facebook groups and seeing the ongoing interests and activity for the show. Now it's been picked up by Netflix, so here we go again. You know, it's like we're back on the top of the roller coaster again. Here we go.
Right. And by the way, it was in the top 10 internationally at the end of February.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. For me, the motivation, and it comes back to the motivation to do this show at this time, was the relationships, the relationships that we had built for years, were still important to me, and it was something that I just didn't want to let go. And there were so many of these people that I hadn't spoken with in years, and I wanted to reach out with them and connect with them and see how they were doing through this, and you know. and share a lot of those stories that I didn't and Darren did not get to tell because we only started working on getting our own content in earnest around season 8 of SG1. And so I wanted to, I mean, he wrote news stories, you know, based on content that was earlier, all the way back to season 3.
In my head, I mean, I only met you in 2007, started talking to you guys in 2006, but in my head, I've got you guys.
Yeah, that's when we started getting our own content in earnest. So the stories that were before then, I wanted GateWorld and Dial the Gate to have, you know, copies of those stories, so to speak, that weren't locked away in magazines in the German language, you know, and Stargate was huge in Germany. And so they had this, right. They had these amazing German issues, and so many of these interviews were of these stories from earlier seasons in the show were only in German, for instance, just one example. And then on top of that, there were so many creative people involved with the show that I really had not had a chance to really get to know at all. And
do some work, so be able to reach out to them and have more of those conversations you would love to have had back then.
So like Vaitiari Hirschon, you know, she and I never knew each other. And so, nope. I
just kind of assumed you knew everybody. See,
I don't.
David knows everybody.
David knows a few, for sure. But getting a chance to have a lot of these conversations for the first time is really cool as well. And
I love that.
And the benefit of the stretch of time that has passed is that so many of them have kind of let their hair. There were certain things that happened behind the scenes that are just, you know, like in any office situation, we're not going to talk about that outside the public. What's inside stays inside. And, you know, been fortunate to be privy to a lot of those stories, which provide context to the other things. But fandom doesn't need to know about these reasons. Fandom doesn't need to know why X, Y, or Z left the show. Doesn't matter. But for a lot of the stories now, they're like, you know what? Time has passed. The networks don't care anymore. Let's explain this story to fans. You know what?
Exactly.
I wrote that episode. I was not happy with that episode for X, Y, or Z. Joseph Malazzi's been doing a lot of that. He's been brutally honest. It's so cool.
And that's so cool. And it's so much the benefit of, to your point, that 20 years of hindsight, perspective, and maturity to say, you know, laughingly, well, I wish I'd handled that better.
Right,
Those
exactly.
are great stories.
And this is what I learned.
And and Linda, I want you to talk about your creative process as well. I just want to, because that just made me think of a question for both of you. One of the things that I think is exciting about that is that the Stargate fandom, and I've worked in a lot of fandoms, and each one is unique and exciting and amazing in its own. But one of the things that I was always struck by with Stargate is they always wanted to know what was happening behind the curtain. A lot don't want to. The Buffy fandom for a long time didn't care what was happening or how the production or the writing happened, and then they did get into it. But for a long time, they were much more into the world building itself as opposed to the character building. Stargate fans, I love the fact, I mean, as a producer, it was after my own heart. I loved the fact that I'd meet fans and they wanted to know about the process. They wanted to know, how does the writer's room work? Well, why did Brad decide to do the set that way? Or why did James Robbins, you know, go for that concept design? Or literally, why did they choose that P90 prop as opposed to the Zap gun? Those were the things that I just loved because it expanded our world because the fans wanted to know it. And Linda, you're one of those fans. I do want you to talk about your creative process as well. But one of the first times I met you, you were asking me questions about the production process of what I did, which was, again, it's an adjacent industry, but I love that people love that. And David, that's become your career. So it is, I think, a passion that overlapped. And Linda, talk about your creative process a little bit in that area, because that's what you love. You love, how does it work?
As far as Stargate goes, Bjo Trimble was a neighbor.
Wow.
I forgot about that.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah, this is when I was living in the LA area. And I was out of work at the time, and she had broken her ankle. And she was like, kiddo, you know, we can help each other here. let's get together. If you'll drive me all over the place, you know, we'll do dinner and you can eat with us, and this'll help your bills for the moment, and this will really be a huge help to me. I took her everywhere, fabric shopping, quilting club, and of course, when it's Bjo Trimble, it includes trips to Stargate, Star Trek sets, which was like Deep Space Nine and Voyager at the time. I was on the Deep Space Nine set several times, once with her, twice with fans.
So did you like drop to your knees and kiss the ground? Because I would have.
Yeah, one of those times was with a Make-A-Wish kid, and that was the final day of filming of Deep Space Nine.
Oh my gosh,
What
that's
we left behind.
She knew I loved Stargate and had been watching it religiously. And she's like, all right, I want to see what the big deal is. And sit on the couch, and we put it on and we were watching it together. And she's like, ooh, this has great potential. Are you writing about this? You should write something.
Blessing from the Trimbles. That's great.
Yeah.
I know, right?
And she started fielding ideas at me. And then a few weeks later, she comes and she's like, did you see this? And it's news of a Stargate fan club starting. And this was the first official fan club that had been licensed by MGM. And she said, it's these people at this company, call them now. Literally, she handed me the phone. Call them now.
Wow.
Tell them you're an expert on this, and
love
that
it.
they should hire you as a consultant.
Isn't
So-
this the best story, David?
I love
mean,
this story.
I didn't know this until just a couple of weeks ago.
No.
She told me.
Yeah, I haven't really shared this very much.
No.
But I stood there with her beige phone in my hand, and I called the people, and I said, do you need a Stargate consultant? I know everything about this series backwards and forwards, and, you know, can recite the whole thing to you line by line. And they were like, yeah, okay, come down. I only worked for them for a couple of weeks, getting them started, and then unfortunately the whole thing kind of collapsed.
Yeah.
They didn't really manage to get the thing properly launched. But there was a welcome packet that included a welcome letter from Jack O'Neill and some other stuff.
Very cool. You still have it, I hope.
I don't. I lost it in one of my moves. And
Oh,
if anyone
my gosh,
out there,
Linda the librarian, do you not know the Dewey Decimal System?
No.
if anyone out there has a copy of this thing and
I'd like
would
to
make
see
a
it.
photocopy or a scan of it and
Yeah.
email it to Dial the Gate.
Yeah,
Because
dialthegateshow@gmail.com. I'd love to
I
see
do
it.
not have it, and it's the welcome letter from Jack O'Neill that I wrote. And I had the best fun getting that and trying to write it in his voice so that it sounded like that irreverent, you know, welcome to the club,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, sure, you
snarky
betcha. Get
Jack
on with
O'Neill
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if I did a good job or not. It's been so long. At the time,
Oh,
it really rang
please.
true to me.
I'm sure. I'm sure it was great.
It was
Well,
great.
and
But
see,
that was my first professional
I
bit of
love that.
writing.
Wow.
And that was Bjo giving me a kick in the backside and saying, get out there and do it. Don't
What
just
keeps
talk
you
about
going?
doing it.
And what keeps you going? What's your creative light? What's your spark that keeps you going when it's hard, right? When,
You know what?
don't
You
wanna do it.
guys, it's you guys, Jenny and David and all the fellow fans I've made friends with over the years who I keep in touch with, who ask me, what am I doing next? And I feel like, okay, I've got to do next. I've got to keep doing next for these people because they're out there and they're counting on me to turn out something for them.
True.
You know,
I mean,
so-
the fans keep it going. They keep the.
Yeah.
I've rarely seen a fandom. I know everybody talks
that
about
feeling
it, but
that somebody's depending on me, that's what keeps me coming back.
I love
And
it.
you know, please don't ever stop asking me what I'm doing next, because I probably trip over myself and fall on my face.
No, but hey, but that's a perfect segue. So one of the last things I want to ask both of you, because I know we've got about 10 minutes here, is that what I'd like to do is have both of you talk about what you all ask every one of your interviewees every time, but I'm going to put a little bit of a different spin on it. So everybody always asks what your favorite series, what's your favorite episode, whatever. Everybody's got different ones. I don't care about that. What I want to ask for both of you is based on what you're doing now, your passion. So Linda with the writing, David with producing and editing. What was one of your favorite episodes in each of the series? Because I hate it when someone says, out of 300 episodes, what's your favorite episode? From each of the series, what's an episode that either surprised you by the writing, Linda, or by the producing, the editing, the overall package, David, or is one that you hold in your mind as your standard of measure?
From each show?
From each series.
I
know, I'm putting you on the spot.
For SG1, it would be the fifth race.
Okay, why? Why that one?
Because it said that there's hope for the human race. It says that we're going to be all right. That line has stuck with me. Jack's line has stuck with me more in the past year than ever. You know that stuff, that meaning of life stuff. I think we're going to be all right. And I think if you turn on the news,
in that show, I love that.
We're beating each other over the head, and we've definitely got issues. And I mean, there's definitely no denying that. But I think it's important to remember that I always look back to that episode. For Atlantis, it was Sunday because I talked with Martin Garrow, years before he created this show, and he was percolating this idea, and we had talked about it off and on for years. And so I watched Sunday emerge.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were talking about it as early as season 1.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he had wanted to do a day off episode since he had first joined the show, but he was trying to figure out how to do it, and so we discussed, I just, not like I helped him make it or anything, but he definitely talked me through his process of, well, there has to be Jeopardy and there has to be this or that because this is what the show is. How can we do it? And so that Sunday is very special to me for that reason. Not only because, we lost Carson and everything else.
Right.
And then for SGU, it would probably have to be Time because my mouth was on the floor at the end of it, realizing that there was no more story, that the episode had ended, and I had not seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, so I was not aware.
Wait, okay, so you didn't know
not at that
parallel.
point. I've since seen it, so I wasn't expecting the program to stop before the narrative had ended for you to assume the rest. But I woke up the next day, having gone to bed, asking, what did I seen, and realizing that I had seen the second iteration of an at least 3 iteration time loop, knowing and realized that the second's really all that you need, with video camera from the footage from the first, what happens next. And I wish they had never done that Kino episode explaining what happened. That was not necessary. But for me, it's those 3 stories. Sometimes
exposition isn't necessary.
It's not.
We're smarter. We're a smart audience.
It's a smart audience, exactly. So those are mine. If on the fly I were to answer, those would be mine.
Okay, I love it.
I'm interested to hear Linda's.
I know, Linda. So what about you?
Well, SG1, it's definitely The Curse, and I mean everybody always looks at me funny when I say that, and they're like,
"Good show."
No, that's a great one, but why?
It's all Agatha Christie, and Daniel gets to be an archaeologist.
Got it.
And there's that fabulous plot twist where the girlfriend is the Goa'uld.
Right.
It's just wonderful. I mean, she's so sweet and you love her and you're like, ooh, Daniel could get back together with her.
Yeah.
And then, boom, the eyes glow and she throws him against
not again.
the wall.
I just did this.
Oh!
Hey, and you know what? I like the fact that you referenced Agatha Christie because it is that some of the best episodes across all 3 series have that kind of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or Agatha Christie. There's a classic twist to it, but it's a twist, and it's our special Stargate twist, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting.
Exactly.
What about Atlantis?
Atlantis. Oh, Atlantis is harder. Probably. What's the episode where they get trapped in the cave, and Sam hurts herself trying to
Trio.
yeah.
Trio. Yeah.
I just like
supposed to
that
save the
one.
money, and it went way over budget.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
It's the trapped in a mind story that every single series has.
Right.
But they did it differently.
Yeah.
They did. They
You
did.
know,
And those
it always does that.
We're so good together too.
That's true, too.
That's what does it. What about SGU? Can you think of one for SGU that you liked?
It's got to be the very first one.
Air.
Because the whole concept where, you know, they show up at Eli's door and tell him he's got to come help. And what
It's
fan
Last Starfighter.
doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Sam Carter knocks on my door or somebody right now and says, get up, come on.
Oh.
I'm going. I'm
Can I
grabbing
get some
the cat
pants?
and I'm out the door and going.
Exactly. I love that. Well, guys, are there any questions? I'm so sorry, I don't have the live chat open. Are there any questions from fans that you guys want to answer?
There have been. Wyvern Gaming wanted to know, how did David get involved in Stargate? Asked and answered. Thank you guys at Wyvern. Appreciate you.
Hi, Wyvern.
Eva Lipinska, question for all three. How many people became a fan of Stargate because of you? You introduced the show. I introduced SG1 to my 12-year-old brother during quarantine, and now he's the biggest fan.
Oh, that's cool.
I've recommended it to a lot of people. There are... I've lost count of the number of friends that I've gotten to watching it. I mean, dedicated, like hardcore, maybe 2 or 3 that I know of. I'm sure there's more, though. You guys?
Yeah. My son,
yes.
Timmy's just an absolute huge fan of it. I would say the same thing. Amongst my family and friends, I've introduced it to, my family's huge, so I've introduced it to over 50 or 60 people, but of that...
Like fans of it, yeah.
Yeah, I would say 3 or 4 have become pretty dedicated. They'll do rewatches with me. We talk about it. So it's been fun. I love it. That's a great question. Linda?
I don't know. I mean, I've certainly introduced tons and tons of people to it. I don't know who's still following it seriously. I do know that at the very first Stargate convention I went to, which was the first GateCon, I walked into the lobby of the hotel thinking I was going to this con solo. And they're sitting in chairs near the desk were 2 of my very best friends from other fandoms.
No way.
So
and you guys
I looked
didn't
at
know
them.
that you were going?
None of us. The other 2 arrived before I did, found each other, sat down, and we're having a girl fest. I walked in, they looked at me. We all 3 shrieked and hugged each other. And then we went to the desk and rearranged who was staying with who.
Of course.
There you go.
That is what you have to do.
Yes. And they're both still in Stargate fandom, and I talk with them. I was talking with them yesterday.
That's great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Teresa MC, would you actually step through the Stargate not knowing what was on the other side?
Hell yeah.
If it existed as we know it for sure, and everything that we know about the world is consistent in real life, yeah, I would step through it.
Oh, in a millisecond, and I bring everybody with me. And,
Epitaph wouldn't be boring.
No.
So.
We're a team, right? And we're taking the rest of the Dial the Gate people with us, and Beth and.
Oh yeah, do we get to choose our team? I guess that would be my question. I want to choose my own team.
Wyvern asks, you've all met a lot of stars, cast members, directors. Who have you met that you geeked out about the most?
Oh my God. Well, David knows this story. So this is, I'm so sorry, this is not connected to Stargate, but you guys will laugh. So I was at, I think, David, it was San Diego I was at. We were doing the very first reactivation 2016 or 17 Stargate panel.
Yeah.
And I was running around, and I had to go from in San Diego to Comic-Con. There's 3 main hotels where the stars are. So I went up to go get, I forget who I went to get. Chris Judge. So I went to go get Chris, and we're in the elevator, and Tim's with me, my husband, and Guillermo del Toro gets on.
Oh.
And I, because of my business, I love it. And I'm usually very, very easy going, hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
This is what I love your work. My palms got sweaty. He was on his phone, and it's, Chris is ginormous, and Chris is elbowing me. Like, do it. My palms got sweaty. I backed into the corner of the elevator, and I think literally I sweated out like 4 quarts just in the time it took us to go from the top of the hotel down to the bottom. And as he gets down and he closes his phone, Chris and my husband are like, I've got bruises from the elbows. Like, say something. Absolutely 100% speechless, frozen, couldn't do it. He leaves, and that's the last time I ever ran into him. And I'm a huge fangirl. Hellboy is my thing. Yeah. I just was frozen, and I fangirled. It was ridiculous.
Linda?
I've never frozen meeting anybody.
But there have been out there.
Yeah, there have been 1 or 2 male actors who I really had a serious crush on, and probably stuck my foot in my mouth and kind of went and looked like a total fool. The one I probably have the most nostalgia about having met is Don Davis, who I again met at one of the Gate Cons. I've got a photo of me and him. I only talked to him for about 2 seconds and got the picture together, but the man put his arm around me and called me darling.
Yep.
And I just had this warm glow. It was that, General Hammond father figure glow.
Yeah.
And
because that's who he was.
That's who he was.
Yeah. He was just a big teddy bear, and we just had a little tiny moment, but I treasure it.
For me, one non-Stargate and one Stargate. Sam Diter, who Jenny and I worked with on our Stargate Continuum project.
Which we have to talk about that another time.
Absolutely, we can.
Some of that stuff we did was amazing.
He was well connected with Dark friends. He had friends at Dark Horse. And so we went out to a bar in the Gaslamp district in San Diego with them. And lo and behold, I'm, sharing a small space in a small group of friends with Kevin Eastman from the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And I was a turtle boy all my childhood, and I was I must have been so embarrassing because I figured out who he was, and I was just
God, no.
No, it was pretty bad. And so, I mean, it was, geez. But, I mean, for me, it was Dean Devlin. I saw him. I did not expect to see him at WonderCon when we went with Legion M to go work on Bad Samaritan. And he was live, live streaming the convention floor. And I ran out from our booth. And I was like, oh, my God. A total fanboy. And got a selfie with him and everything else. He was totally cool about it. That's why he was there. And that's when you and I connected with him. Correct.
Yeah.
To bring him in with us and got to do that on Dial the Gate last year. Thank you. So,
oh, my God. If you guys have not seen that interview that David has done on Dial the Gate with Dean, it is phenomenal. And Dean shares a lot that he might not have shared 5 years ago. So you got him to open up about things that you and I knew, but that he hadn't shared.
Exactly.
So, great job on that interview.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that was a great moment. Let me see here.
One of my favorites.
Question for David, Jenny, and Linda. What kind of cameo role would you like to have on any of the series?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, I would kill to be a gold queen. I think that would rock. Because, it's so counter to who I am. Because normally I'm sure you guys would expect me to say, oh, I want to be on an SG team and I'm going to go through the gate. I would love to be some badass Sue-Ann Braun, Hathor type queen. I mean, let's be honest, I'm the girl next door, so I'm never going to be the, femme fatale. But it'd be so cool to be that. Be some super cool Celtic Goa'uld queen.
Linda?
Any cameo part they gave me, I would happily do.
Oh, come on!
I really would. Any part they'd give me. I
You'd be a kick-ass female Daniel.
Oh
Yeah,
I
no,
love
you could be
that.
you could be an assistant. You could run that base for crying out
Yeah,
loud.
you'd be so good as the archaeologist. That would be amazing.
I would love being the archaeologist. Or the other one is I've joked about this a number of times with people, is that Daniel's brought back so much stuff that needs to be cataloged.
Yeah.
That, I mean, there's got to be a base librarian.
Oh my
Hello,
God,
librarian.
that would be such a great character too. It'd be like Gary Jones. You could be this running character through all the seasons. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, and I could be like, shh, to the loud gold who comes in and is like,
That would be so good.
Impudence.
David, I am dying to know what I don't know you've ever told me.
I've always wanted Gary Jones's job.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. Be the gatekeeper.
I could totally see you doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me my my glasses and Chevron 1 encoded.
Oh my God.
Because we all know there's more to it than that.
There
Those
is.
SG teams, they count on that person being there.
They do. He's got some deep science knowledge going on there, or technical engineering knowledge. David, that's perfect.
the
I love that.
bunting to order.
Yes. I mean, I think it'd be fun if he had just for kicks and giggles mixed it up, like Chevron 5. Chevron 5.
Well, he tried to do that, and they were like, no. They shut him
I
down.
know. I know.
There's a few here, so we need to run through them a little more quickly.
Okay.
Goran Andonovsky, your favorite character. I'm going to go with my favorite guest character, Osiris, Anna Louise Plowman.
Oh.
I'm praying that we can get her on the show. I'm trying.
Oh man, she'd
So,
be great.
I've always adored Anna Louise Plowman. You guys?
Love it.
She'd be at the top of my list too.
You said the curse, and I was like, hey.
Yeah, I adore her. I really do, and I've seen her in some other stuff, and she's fabulous. Whatever she does.
I got to be honest, it'd be hard to pick. I mean,
Yeah, regular.
Oh, now you're doing
characters-
it.
Originally, I would have said Daniel, and
Right.
these days I'm like Sam and Janet. Those strong women. Those are the role models I want for my students.
I mean, I hate to say it, but Jack, because he was one of the first ones. And remember, I'm 25, so I'm thinking he's hot, and coming off MacGyver, and then Shepard. See, I had a tendency to pick the leaders because that was always who I was really into when I was growing up in sci-fi as well. Because like Captain Kirk was cool. But honestly, I have to go back to Taylor. For me, Taylor, I always keep coming back over and over and over again to her as an arc that I really love. So
Yeah,
if I was
absolutely.
going to pick a strong character that I keep coming back to a lot, it's her. The others are my favorites, and I'll watch any episode with them.
For sure. Marshall Middleton, what is one of your favorite cosplays for yourself? Who do you cosplay?
Hi, Marsha.
Hi, Marsha. I have a set of Galactica green fatigues from Battlestar, from Ron D. Moore's Battlestar. I've done conventions with those. That's about it. The rest of the time, people are like, you don't dress up. I'm like, no, I'm working. I'm working with you guys.
I've never done cosplay. These guys know. I love cosplay. Marsha, you know this. I love cosplay, but I don't tend to dress up myself. Not because I'm working, just because I don't know why. It just never hit me. But if I had had the body for it, to go back to Taylor, I would have loved to dress up as Taylor. If I was still, 25 and rocking that bod, that would be really cool with her staff weapons. I'd do that in a second.
Very good. Linda?
Oh, I used to cosplay a lot. When I was in high school and college, I sewed all my own costumes. I did a lot of Doctor Who companions, at Tegan with the purple air stewardess uniform.
Yeah.
I even made the hat. Lately, though, I don't do very much. I tend to wear my con t-shirt.
Hey. And Jenny's got hers on too.
I know.
Yeah.
I do too. I've got it on too.
I have an SG-1 uniform complete with the vest, and,
okay.
I made a stuffed go old to perch on my
I know.
shoulder.
I love that. Hey, you had it on our.
Which you gotta go whole hog and do the full nerd.
That's true.
If you're gonna do it,
The stuffed gold.
it's perfect. I loved it.
Yep.
That's a great one.
All
Sorry
right.
about the cat. She's
No, it's all right.
knocking things off the desk.
An episode that you wish would have ended differently. Eva Lipinske wanted to know from any series
Oh.
that it ended differently.
Heroes.
Neros, okay.
Heroes. I want to.
Heroes.
I wanted to keep Janet forever. That's. I'd have had her, ascend and come back like
I wish
Daniel.
we hadn't destroyed Reese at the end of Menace.
Ooh,
I wish
that's
that she had
interesting.
just gone offline.
Yeah.
Because I love Danielle Nicolette. She said no to coming on the show. I asked her, and she wasn't interested. So,
Aw, too bad.
yeah.
Outside of the obvious, which is SGU, the end, and honestly, I wish Atlantis is, I loved Vegas as your penultimate episode.
Mm-hmm.
While I understand all of the reasons behind why the last episode of Atlantis went the way it did, and I know what the machinations were, that was not what I wanted. But in terms of one that's a little bit different, what's the one that SG-1 is underground at the mine and they're slaves?
Beneath the Surface.
I wish that Jack and Sam had remembered and been together.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge shipper. It's not what I do, but I thought that story was so poignant and so amazing. And there's some very quiet moments. I mean, we all use the gif of her putting her head on his shoulder, but I think it would have been very cool if they remembered more about being together.
A two-part character study would have been really nice about that. And having them
cool.
remember a lot of that too.
Yeah, I would have loved that.
Yeah. All right. They're still submitting questions. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up because we're bumping into the other episode.
I know. And Wyvern Gaming has guys also, because all of this is part of WonderCon. I know, David, this will be on your channel forever, but right now and this weekend, for anybody that's live, Wyvern Gaming is also doing games as part of GateWorld, sponsor of the Stargate channel through CCI and WonderCon Gaming. So please, I encourage everybody to go over and look at Wyvern Gaming's new Stargate RPG. We have amazing games. David, if you could do a little spiel, we have, I think it's at 2:00 today.
Yes.
I can't remember.
So there's another cast reunion role-playing game episode with Alexis Cruz, Julie McNiven, Simone Bailey, and Rainbow Sun Franks. They're visiting a familiar planet today, and it's going to be a hoot.
Good.
So
it is.
Check it out.
So good. So guys, please check that out. For anybody that hasn't checked out the Stargate RPG over at Wyvern Gaming, on Wyvern Gaming's site, they've got a whole forum and they've got all the information about this game. They've already got the book done, and fans get to really be a part of it. And then also, I'd like to thank David so much for letting me ask him anything, and Linda to let me ask you anything. And David, I hope we can do some more walk down memory lane.
Absolutely.
There's some projects and activations we didn't even get to talk about.
We'll have you back whenever it works for you. Absolutely.
Well, I love some of the ideas that you've come up with over the years. They've been pretty successful, so I'd love to talk about that. So
Absolutely.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you both for coming on and taking the time for sure. This has been terrific. So it's been a good one for sure.
Yeah, it has. It's been great.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
I'll wrap up the show and I'll reach out to you both soon, okay?
Yes.
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Jenny Stiven and Linda Furey, my co-producer and my longtime working partner, each separately for Stargate. So someone else asked, would you rather be on Destiny or Atlantis? Atlantis because of the food, Destiny because of the adventure. Would love to know the guest opinion on the best music over the Stargate different series. We didn't get to that one. As far as I'm concerned, the best piece of music is Joel Goldsmith at the end of Gauntlet. His closing music to Stargate is absolutely amazing. The epic. That's a question for Robert C. Cooper. Okay, so I appreciate you guys sticking around and hope you really enjoyed the show. Dial the Gate is brought to you every week for free, and we do appreciate you watching. But if you want to support the show further, buy yourself some of our themed swag, which you saw the ladies wearing today. We're now offering t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, and hoodies for all ages in a variety of sizes and colors at Redbubble. Currently offering 4 themed designs and hope to add more in the future. You can use your Amazon or PayPal account to check out. Just visit dialthegate.redbubble.com, and thanks for your support. And Dial the Gate has partnered with 3D Tech Pro for the month of March to give you a chance to win your very own Atlantis, Puddle Jumper, and BC303. To enter to win these items, you need to use a desktop or laptop computer and visit dialthegate.com. Scroll down to submit trivia questions. Your trivia may be used in a future episode of Dial the Gate, either for our monthly trivia night or a special guest to ask me in a round of trivia. There's 3 slots for trivia, 1 easy, 1 medium, and 1 hard, and only 1 needs to be filled in, but you can submit up to 3. The submission form does not currently work for mobile devices. Get your trivia in to me by April the 1st, and if you're the lucky winner, I'll be notifying you via your email to get your address. And be sure to check out our partner's website for more Stargate related merchandise at 3dtech.pro. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, share this channel. It means so much to have you here. Thank you to Summer, Tracy, Keith, Jeremy, Reese, Anthony, my moderating team as always. Big thanks to Jennifer Kirby, Linda Gategabber Furey. You met her just today. And Jenny Stiven as well for coming on. It's long time coming that we were going to have Jenny on the show, and I'm really glad that we finally got to do it. Enjoy WonderCon, and see you on the other side. I'm David Reed for Dial the Gate. Hey.